Greetings everyone, welcome to my sketchbook. I have an idea I'm going to try out. It could be kind of messy. That is okay, that's what I use my sketchbook for. Here I have 3 markers in that sort of, well, I can set it up in that stoplight configuration, you know, red, yellow, green, green, yellow, red. And I have these 2 colors as well. So I'm going to see what can be done here. I'm going to try to move this along reasonably quick. I'm going to zoom in, let's say go to there. See if that'll lock down. All right. These are water-based, water-soluble. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw little segments. Just like this. Next, I'm going to use red, and the segment isn't going to have to be as large. So just like that, I'm going to skip that one and go right to this one. Green. Same kind of thing. Red and green are very powerful. I don't have to use a lot of it. Here is the idea. I'm going to get some water. So I have a cup here. I have a paintbrush here. Let's see. I'm going to move that kind of into frame. I'll start by going with the yellow first, and I'm just going to blur some of the mess that I made there. So get rid of some of that streakiness. I take some of the harshness out. I don't know if this seems familiar to any of you as of yet. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blend in those other colors. Now red is powerful, so I'm going to do that one here, and I'm going to let that kind of bleed into the yellow a little bit. I might have put a little bit too much water there. That's okay though. I will get over that. Let's go to the next bit here. So what I'm working on is a type of candy which some people really enjoy. I remember going to a house party. Let's see if we can get a little bit more water off of that brush. And everyone was given a cup full of cookie crumbs. And we got to do some excavation to look for gummy worms, and that was pretty fun. And then when we were done with, you know, finding all the worms in our cups, we could put them on our ice cream as some sort of like topping or whatnot. So cookie crumbs and gummy worms, which is a weird thing for ice cream, I think. But candy is, well, candy. So 4 minutes to get to that point. That's pretty exciting. I'm going to let that kind of dry a little bit. Next, I have this color. And over here, I'm going to work on another worm. Now, worms to me are wonderful creatures. And even now, as an adult, if it's, let's say it's summertime, and I see a worm on a sidewalk, and it's turning into a hot day. So let's say this is kind of earlier on in the day, and I see a worm on the sidewalk. I will bend down and, using my pinky and ring finger, I will pick up that worm and move it to a place that I think would be much cooler. So like off the sidewalk and onto the grass. I've been doing that since I was a kid. Now, it could be an empathy thing. I'm sure that's what it is, because I don't really want to see a living creature suffer. Also, if you think about it, worms are kind of like the intestines of the earth. So, oh, by the way, I don't recommend handling too many things like that, I guess, because you could end up with a different type of worm. Oh, look at that. I'm getting some of this on my finger. Yeah, you don't want to get worms. I know somebody that actually got worms, and they talked about, making spaghetti and the suffering that they did with that. Can't imagine that was a good time to be dewormed as a person. Okay, so I'm going to get my cup of water and my brush here, and all these harsh lines that I put in, I'm going to kind of blur them as well. So it's kind of softening that image. As a kid, I realized that there was no need of using black marker or black crayons or pencil crayons to outline everything that I do. Now, I kind of do things in a coloring book kind of style most often because I work in black ink mostly. But I remember as a kid, I drew a picture of the sun, and I used it was like a thick marker, and I did the rays of the sun, and I just remember thinking that looks kind of ridiculous to have that much work put into something that's supposed to be, the golden yellow in the sky. So you don't have to outline all of your stuff in black. You can if you feel like it. I mean, it's a kind of an artistic choice, I guess, too. So why am I saying that? Well, I'm going to go back in to my gummy worm to start, and I'm going to use those other markers to add some detail, I guess. It should be sort of drier or dry now. So that's what the worm looks like there. I'm going to let that kind of dry a little bit too, and I'm going to add detail without having to use black on that as well. Set that paintbrush off to one side. Now let's go back over here. What's this little dot here, by the way? Let me see if I can just... I don't need to be this picky. It's a weird imperfection to have on the page. Guess who made it worse? I did. That looks awesome. Anyway, should have let it be. But I can't always. All right, I'm gonna set the cup down. I'll try to add in, that's sort of dry enough, I think, a little bit of definition. Well, that's not that bad. Kind of outline the body segment a little bit with some ridges of sorts. And those lines would get wider on the outside of the curve than the inside. Oh, this could be a little strange because I know red is very powerful, so I might have to be kind of careful with this. I think it is going to be pretty dark. Yeah. Not the worst thing. I will get over it. Maybe. Anyway. That. Go with green next. Now, I do believe that one side, more so than the other, in gummy worms, because they're kind of cast into that sort of shape, would be flatter than the other, where, you know, whatever the mixture would settle. So we're kind of ignoring that. Next, this side should be dry enough for me to add some detail to the body of this other worm. Let that one kind of be the star for a moment. Now, once in a while you'll see parts of a worm that seem a little wider than others, and that's because, you know, it could be digesting something. I remember as a kid hearing someone say that, you know, they have multiple hearts and they have multiple heads, and if you ever find half a worm, it'll probably survive and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe that's really the case. I could look that up, I suppose, but I don't recommend hurting a worm to find that out. Now that's a little bit of detail. For fun, because I think that almost would be good enough, but I did bring out this other color as well, so I'm going to use that to add a little bit more, I don't know, let's say kind of like darken in certain spots of the digestive parts of what's going on, the digestion. It's a weird word that I just tried to manipulate in my mouth. Digestive. That's better. Maybe something like that. And then a little darker towards the end here. Okay, that looks strange. I am going to try something else here before I'm kind of done with that. I'm going to hop out. I have my pen. And I'm going to dip this. Now this could look kind of terrible. As I said, I like to experiment in my sketchbook. Now it's been a while since I've done this sort of thing. I remember in school, and of course it wouldn't look like this. When you were taking music lessons, you would have a chalkboard and you would have a special staff writing chalk holder that had 5 pieces of chalk in it. And that would be used to make this, which is a music staff. And here's something that I will always remember. These spaces in between these lines, this would be face, F-A-C-E. But now, of course, the way notes work, and this isn't really music lessons, this is just a, reciting something kind of strange, is that they are in alphabetical order. So it goes from A to G. It's kind of interesting. So if that's F here, then it goes G, then it goes back to A, B, C, D, E, F, continues along, G. Anyway, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Anyway, I'm going to have that end there. I'm going to zoom in on this just for fun, because that's kind of messy and awesome all at the same time. See if that'll focus just well enough for me. Dip my pen. See if I can scooch in a little messy treble clef. And hopefully not get ink all over my hand as I go. We'll have one flat here because we're going to do this in the key of F major. And its timing would be 4/4. Okay. I'm trying to remember how this goes. For this part. Back here. This. Do. Back to A. Do. Yeah. Do. I'll take a little rest there for a moment. Do another rest. I may have to add more to that. Do. Well, I may have to add a little bit, but you know what? I'll figure that out in a moment. Do. Yeah. And I think it rests again. All right, let's add a little bit more to this. Suppose I should have continued that there. I don't really write notation really anymore. It was always kind of fun, though, as I said. I truly believe that music, and mathematics for that matter, are the most elegant languages that we have as human beings. So, oh, does that look messy? Of course it looks messy. It's my notebook. Oh, notebook. It's my sketchbook. Here, I'm going to write this. Here, I'll write this. Rest. Be happy. Well, let's back this out a little bit at least. That, to me, is probably one of the greatest earworms of all time. So, some of you probably know who Bobby McFerrin is. But anyway, Don't Worry, Be Happy is just, it's such a wonderful tune. It almost makes you skip when you hear it. Of course, he's worked on orchestrations for many other things. That tune was an incredible gift. And yeah, if you're ever just walking around and you want to feel good. I will say this much, though. It's been quite some time since I've seen the music video for that. And I think the last time I saw it, it kind of made me sad, and then it kind of made me happy, because it features Bobby McFerrin, of course, but I think Peter Scolari and Robin Williams is in that. And I think the last time I saw that was just after the passing of Robin Williams, so it was kind of tough to see, and at the same time, you know, I mean, the kind of joy that Robin Williams put into the world, well, kind of made me smile too. But I think that was probably the last time that I saw that music video. Well, so that's almost 25 minutes to draw a couple of worms. You know, I could go back and maybe blend a few of these things so it's not nearly as harsh, but I don't know. This is what I do in my sketchbook, is just get an idea out of my head. It's funny, that little whatever happened over here. Not a big deal. All right, folks. Well, thanks for hanging out for a minute or so. Come back again. We'll do something else kind of fun. All right. Ciao for now.